Thank you for tuning in to Under the Oak, an Acorn School podcast. In this episode, we discuss how Acorn School came about
and my experience as a public school teacher in the system.
We discuss family-centered education, as well as things like flow states and all kinds of interesting information about the behind the scenes of Acorn School and why it works.
Okay, on this episode, our first episode, we wanted to talk about how Acorn School was born into this world.
And what it is. Some people have confusion about what we're doing, so we want to lay out our philosophy of why we do what we do and, how it came about.
Yep, just add some clarification so that if you're interested in our program, you can come and reference to this and see what we're all about.
Over time, this isn't just going to be the Acorn School podcast. We will be interviewing different leaders within the homeschool community, discussing homeschool, discussing holistic lifestyle choices. Over time, this will branch out into lots of things, which is why it is Under the Oak. But for today, because Acorn School is how this podcast came about and our baby, as far as the business we've created, we wanted to just do our very first episode as what is Acorn School? How do we get here?
And a little bit about ourselves, too, so that you kind of know the people behind the acorn, as you will, and that we planted it and have grown it into this wonderful oak. So that's my cheesy run at that. So let's get into it. Here we go. Okay, I'm Emilirose and I have a degree in early childhood education. I was in the public school district for 6 years. I taught grades kindergarten, first, and second. I love doing art. Most, if not all, of the Acorn School art is drawn by my hand. So I just love it. That's what I do in my free time, aside from reading. I'm definitely a bookworm. So if you need book recommendations, definitely come my way. And I'm definitely the organization backbone behind this company. Star has all the great ideas, and then I funnel them into a cohesive plan on how to execute them, which makes our partnership so perfect. So
we're definitely the Wozniak to the jobs.
Yes, there we go.
What we are.
Yeah.
So I'm Star. I'm a homeschool mother of 3. I always knew I would homeschool. That has been the plan ever since before I had babies. I had home birth with all 3 of my babies. They are 6, 3, and 1. And I love all things birth, babies, children, childhood, motherhood. I love talking about life. It's just so interesting to me. And I would say my biggest goal in life is to be a mother to my children when they have children, and not just a grandmother to my grandchildren, but really to continue to mother my children throughout their adulthood, because I think that's such an important part of life and society that is missing today. And I am also a very creative person. I'm a big dreamer. I have big ideas all the time running through my head, which thank goodness for Emilirose, because I have always had big ideas, but none of this has come about until we met. I also love nature. I'm extremely social. And I will probably be the person that will tell you the truth. So if you don't want to know, don't ask.
Very accurate.
Yes. And we are so excited to be here and record this podcast. This has been definitely a dream come true.
And it's even more of a dream that we're doing it in our very own classroom that we were able to design. Especially how beautiful it is. I feel like walking in here, it's always, you take a deep breath of just, it's just so beautiful. And
which is
everywhere
something
you
that
look,
I feel like is so underestimated also in society today, is beauty is seen as vanity, right? It's like, oh, don't focus on that. Don't focus on that. Focus on real education and real important things. But to be in an environment that is beautiful and that makes you relax is so important.
Yeah, because every adult can identify with this, but if you feel like you are in a state of panic or stress, nothing is going to be absorbed into your head. So having an environment that is relaxing and calm and peaceful opens the mind.
And a little bit hot.
And a little bit hot. It is hot in here. So if you see, if
Come to class
we're
at Acorn School,
shining,
you know this is sometimes an issue.
Yeah.
A little bit warm sometimes.
yeah. So if we look a little sparkly with sweat, we're not vampires. We're
Yes.
just hot.
Yes.
So perfect.
So should we get into what else we're going to be talking about today?
Yes, that sounds great.
Start with today is July 28th.
Yep.
It is a Sunday.
Our first podcast.
Our first ever
In our
Acorn School
classroom,
podcast.
and we had an outing yesterday at Sedona. I did not attend, but you did.
Yes.
How was it?
So fun.
Tell me more.
It was amazing. The parking was a little bit of an issue. We went to Crescent Moon State Park.
Yes.
Always the case, right? So the parking was a little bit of an issue, but once we got there, we went down to Buddha Beach, which is a vortex. If you
A
didn't know.
vortex.
Yes.
Is that like crystals, or is that wrong?
A vortex.
Okay, well now you're gonna have to
in-
explain it to me, because
vortex in
that's what I
Sedona
associate. Vortex,
like-
crystals.
said to be a place of spiritual healing.
Okay.
Essentially, it's supposed to be a place where energy, divine energy circulates.
Okay.
And what's weird is, if you were there, you know, everybody, and I mean, this is kind of how Acorn School is.
And Sedona
anyways,
has a
like,
few of these, correct? I think I've heard them in passing.
there's a few vortexes. There's supposedly them around the world,
Okay.
but Sedona has a few. And what's interesting is that, and this kind of happens at all Acorn School events, like people like leave after getting in this amazing flow state and they just feel so good. And everybody's just like, oh, that was so nice. I got to socialize with my friends while my kids played happily in nature. And it was lovely.
enchanting.
But everybody felt so good afterwards. And we were like, is it because of the vortex? Like, are we like in the vortex?
Okay.
Oh my gosh. And you know what else happened?
What?
My husband, so because of the parking issue, he was parking the car while I, with my backpack, my new nature backpack, I brought all 3 children
Okay.
down quite a long hike
Yeah.
to Buddha Beach by myself.
Okay.
Now I had everybody else there with me, so it was fine, but we were waiting for him, and he finally shows up, and he like marches in with the cooler and the things, and he was like, I just stepped over a rattlesnake.
Oh my gosh. A rattlesnake?
there was
He
a
stepped
rattlesnake.
over it.
There was a rattlesnake on the path. I mean, he's the only one that saw it, but
So even the rattlesnake can feel the vortex and it's
Yeah.
calm.
it was calm. So
That's
he
so
said that
cool.
he saw it and he was waiting there for a while for it to like move across the path, and
My
it wasn't
God.
moving. And he wasn't with the kids, so he just like jumped over it and
Oh my
kept walking.
gosh.
And I was like, "Are you sure it was a rattlesnake?" So we like looked up pictures on the way home, and he was like, "Yeah, it was the diamonds. That's exactly what it was."
Oh my gosh. That's
So
both horrifying
it was a pretty
and
epic day.
amazing.
It was really fun.
That's great.
I'm really glad we did it.
Always
So
a magical time at Acorn School outings.
yes, if you don't know, we do outings once a month, along
Yep.
with festivals once a month at Acorn School. And so all summer long, because we are in Arizona, that's the other thing. If you're watching this from across the world, we are in Arizona, and it is very hot in the summer. So all of our outings have been up north. What's also cool about Arizona, if you drive 2 hours, you basically can be in beautiful weather. So down here, you're in the sweltering heat in 115. You
With
drive
cactus
2 hours.
and sand. And then it's like pine trees.
Yeah, it's lovely. Well,
forest.
Sedona's not pine trees and forest, but it's 10 degrees cooler up there.
Yeah.
And then we were in
And they
the
have
Oak
mountains.
Creek, so
Yeah.
it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Arizona has a vast dynamic of scenery in our state.
it's a really
So,
cool state if you haven't been.
Yeah, we're both warning and promoting our state.
There are rattlesnakes,
Yes, there are
And
rattlesnakes and it's
scorpions,
hot. Yeah, lots of
and
interesting
it's really hot.
creatures.
but there's a lot of beautiful
Yes,
things here.
totally. Okay, well, we're going to get into what we're going to talk about today, which is Acorn School and how it came to be. So we're going to start with Star because she is the original idea maker of this wonderful program that
My
we've created.
brainchild.
It is her brainchild, yes. So go ahead, have at it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny. Like I was telling John about this the other day. It's funny how Acorn School really is. I mean, it's hard to describe because it really is an existence of your whole life
Yep.
that then has come into fruition. So, but if I could put it simply, I attended a Waldorf school as a child, and I loved it. I loved my school. It was magical and beautiful, and we didn't get grades. There wasn't, a structure. And then in 5th grade, I went to a public school. So we moved across the country and I went to a public school in 5th grade. And that was like the biggest, crazy, stark contrast that you could ever imagine. And it was miserable. I went from this magical, spending so much time outdoors in nature, doing art, like learning French and learning German and learning to play the violin and this beautiful, rich childhood education to public school where I literally had 2 hours of math worksheet homework a night in 5th grade.
Oh, yeah.
I was miserable. So I went to school all day and then I sat at home trying to do this math worksheet all night.
That's like, I can't even imagine going from something beautiful to something forced.
Oh my gosh. It was like crazy.
Like, you know
and
how
I was a good student still, but it was
Yeah.
so wild, the difference.
Totally.
And so when I became a mother, like I said, I always knew I was going to homeschool. That was always the plan. But I always felt this like little bit of sadness that my kids would not be able to go to a Waldorf school or experience a Waldorf school because I didn't want them to be at school all the time. And I actually looked into the local Waldorf school here. It seemed lovely, but the hours were like, they're gone all day, every day. And even though the school seemed really nice, I just couldn't picture, because I wanted to homeschool, I wanted to be with my children. I could not picture sending them away.
Because that still has an element of public school.
All day, every
yes.
day.
Oh, they're gone.
Well, and the one here
separated.
technically is a public school, Waldorf school. So it's not really the same as the one I went to as a child, but I just couldn't picture it. So I just thought like it was lost. I was like, we're not going to do the Waldorf thing. Like we can do Waldorf homeschooling, which is great, but it's a little bit different. Like I'm not going to paint my house in this beautiful leisure, you know?
I don't know. After I've seen it in here, I'm like, my husband and I may need to make our office of this. It's so pretty.
Our teacher, Miss Patty, she is our Spanish teacher. Shout out Miss Patty. She is the best. We love her so much. Her and her husband painted these walls.
And
so
just for
lovely.
context, so that our listeners or people who are watching this can appreciate, if you can see the wall behind us, I want you to picture it being a horrendous lime green,
Yes.
like the limest green you have ever seen in your life. And so take that, and then now it's this beautiful watercolor inspired wall. So
it took a couple layers of primer to get here.
Sure.
So anyways, all that to say, I was looking for a Waldorf-inspired co-op or something like that to do with a group of other children, and I literally spent a couple of years scouring the internet, scouring Facebook, looking for groups. Is there any Waldorf groups? Is there any Waldorf groups? Nothing. Then I thought, well, maybe I'll make one. So then I thought, I need to find a Waldorf teacher. So then I was scouring the internet. Are there any Waldorf teachers that I was looking up Waldorf schools, teacher lists. I was trying to find somebody because co-ops traditionally are a bunch of mothers that split the responsibility of whatever they're learning or doing that day. And I personally have 3 children. And at the time I had a little baby when we were creating this. Goldie was just a baby.
She was cute.
So
she still is, but it's crazy how much she's grown
in a year.
My gosh.
Yeah,
she's running around, climbing on everything. Yeah, she takes full advantage of the rock climbing gym now.
Yes. So I had a baby. I had 2 little ones. I just didn't want the pressure of it's my week. I need to come up with the whole lesson and I need to come up with the whole crafts and I need to do all the things. And so then I was I would like a teacher to teach us in a co-op style. So that's where we have longer classes, plenty of playtime. The teachers create the curriculum, the crafts, all that things.
And the parents can be involved.
And the parents are going to be involved.
That's very important.
Yeah, because I wanted to be there. I didn't want to drop my child off at this thing. So I was looking for a Waldorf teacher, could not find a Waldorf teacher. And then I just was kind of giving up. Not giving up, but just it's clearly not going to happen. Yeah, I was on the phone with one of my friends one night and she knew that I wanted to do this. And Emilirose and I were acquaintances at this time. We knew each other, but we were not close as we are today. And my friend that I was on the phone with, Madeline, shout out to Madeline.
Yeah. Acorn School would not be without Madeline's recommendation of me.
Thank goodness. Yeah, we were on the phone and I was I really want to do a Waldorf thing and da-da-da. And she's like, well, Emilirose, and she doesn't work anymore at public school. She quit. And I was okay. And then she goes, well, she said she wants to homeschool her kids when she's older. And I'm thinking because I love Emilirose.
Yes,
but like,
okay,
when I
here's
knew
the
this was
let
a
me
backstory.
disclaimer this, okay? Let's disclaimer this for all Acorn School people, okay? I was, and I'm gonna admit this because it's the truth, and I will speak the truth. I was probably not as far, but I was pretty far away from being anywhere near like a
Waldorf
Waldorf teacher.
yes.
Oh, I mean, I was immersed in public school for 6 years, so there's a lot of
But you're
baggage that
lovely
comes
where
along
it
with that.
counts. But you were lovely where it
Yes,
counts, where I
thank
knew
you.
that.
I
I knew that
appreciate
about
that.
you. I knew that you're
But I
like
had the want and the drive to transition from public school mentality to the beautiful, holistic
homeschool.
education, homeschool
Mhm.
environment that I wanted to change, but also take with me my professionalism
Mhm.
and my experience and my degree that I learned and be able to apply it in a way that would be helpful,
Yes.
which is what we've done. So if you have been with us from the
The
beginning,
very beginning.
you have
The
seen that
OGs.
transition of Emilirose becoming fully immersed in the Waldorf inspired holistic homeschool environment, which I love now. I love it.
Yeah.
But yes, that is my disclaimer. Definitely not at the beginning was I.
Well, but you were interested in it. And
Yeah.
that's all I knew. I knew that I just needed somebody that could be interested, that would go along with my ideas, because I couldn't do them myself.
Yeah.
And you were like on board. So the long story short, we met up to talk. I called her, we met up to talk, and she was like, yeah, sure. Like, let's try it.
Well, it was like borderline almost a dream because I left public school teaching and I didn't re-sign my contract because I mean, we can get into this later, but it was a horrific, traumatizing year of teaching. I was just worn down. My mental health was like at an all-time low, and I just needed to get away. And so this I saw when you presented me with the idea as a way to still be able to use all of my knowledge and my degree to help other families in a way that was a bazillion times more comfortable
Right.
and not so like it takes everything that I love about teaching without all the extra gunk that is typically thrown on teachers that work in public schools. So
Yeah. So we met at a Starbucks and talked, and our goal, like I said, this started as like I just wanted a little co-op for my kids, right?
Mhm.
So our goal was 10 children to participate in Acorn School.
You're like, we just need 10.
We just need 10 children, and we'll charge this much so that we can like pay you for your time and your curriculum. Like that was kind of the goal. Was like, I was like, I'm not gonna, take anything from this. Like we started literally just paying for supplies, Emilirose's time, and the park reservations. That's what, and wagon. We needed a wagon.
Yeah,
things like that with the supplies. But it goes fast. It went really fast. So we sent out a flyer, and I mean, I just looked back at this. So within 3 weeks.
And you recently just found our original flyer,
Flyer.
which was super fun to look back on.
And within 3 weeks, it was full. We had over 10 kids.
We did, yeah.
And a lot of them were my friends. So like the first like
thank
5
you
of
to our
them
friends
were
for being
like my lovely
supportive.
friends that were like, sure, I'll
Like,
try
we'll
it, I
support
guess.
it.
I
Yeah,
guess we'll try it. Some of them are still around all this time later.
Yeah.
But yeah, half of them were people that I already knew dearly and close. And then the other half were just like random people that showed up, right? And some of them are now
still here
with us.
Yes.
And one of them is actually one of our newest Acorn School teachers.
Yep. Emily.
So,
Shout out to Emily. She's going to
was
be
one
our
of the-
Charlotte Mason inspired teacher. We're very excited.
She is amazing. So we're going to have her on the podcast at some point.
Yes.
So where were we?
We got 10 kids to sign up for our class, our first class, a sprinkle of friends, and then a sprinkle of just random community members that were interested. And boom, Acorn School started. And it was
the first month was a little bit crazy.
Yes,
we were
as
getting
all
started.
things are.
Yeah,
when you
it was
first
just
start
a little
something.
crazy. But then by the second month,
we were like, we're getting into it.
We were getting in a groove. And by the second month, we had hired Miss Patty. And she started doing our 8 to 12-year-old Spanish class.
Correct. Yep.
And so
and we got Olivia, who was assisting me.
Yes.
And then
Miss
Star and I, over the course of a month, went from acquaintances to having to talk about big feelings,
Oh, yeah.
big
Yeah, that
like
transition was a little bumpy.
it was bumpy, but that
But
is really when we
it
figured out
solidified.
how good
Yes.
of a partnership
Yeah.
we are because we can
We could
easily
talk
talk
it
it through.
Which is so Acorn School has evolved. It has changed. We've gotten very close throughout the process, and it has just exponentially grown month after month after month.
Mhm.
And the interest from the community, the meeting a need that was in the community, and that's probably in so many communities.
Yeah.
Um, it just was happening so quickly and so clearly that the need was there, and we were able to just kind of scale and scale and scale and grow.
Yeah.
Due to a lot of hard work, really,
Yeah.
but what's beautiful is that my children love Acorn School. Like
They do.
there's been times where they said they liked it better than Disneyland.
Oh.
Like they love Acorn School, and so do the other children that come. And so luckily for me, yes, it was a lot of work and a lot of time, but it was all for something that my children loved and adored. And every time that I was working or going to Acorn School, they were playing and having a great time. So
Totally.
it really worked out. But enough on the origin story.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for us to transition a little bit into just kind of the philosophy and what Acorn School is all about and why it is different from your average homeschool enrichment program. It's different from your average co-op, your average school.
Yep. It's its own little niche.
It's its own niche that I don't know if it really exists anywhere else totally. I mean, maybe it does.
Yes.
Shout out to just let
it
us
does,
know if
yeah,
you
let
exist.
us know.
Reach out. Let's follow each other on Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's its own thing. So it'd be interesting to maybe talk about that.
Yeah.
Should we start with the quote?
Yes, let's do it. I love this quote.
So this book, we probably could do a whole podcast
Which
on
we probably will.
this book. Yes, we probably
Yes,
will.
we will.
It's called Dumbing Us Down, The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Schooling by John Taylor Gatto. And if you don't know who John Taylor Gatto is, just really quickly so that this quote has context, he is an award-winning school teacher. He taught in the New York school system for over 30 years and won award after award after award. And actually, this book is comprised of the speeches he gave at his award ceremonies, which is interesting. And most of the speeches are talking about how horrible the system is. So it's very interesting. So I just want to start with this quote to kind of get into some of the, behind the scenes, how this evolved to be where it is and the framework of which Acorn School is built on. So this quote was from his speech, "We need less school, not more. Whatever an education is, it should make you a unique individual, not a conformist. It should furnish you with an original spirit with which to tackle the big challenges. It should allow you to find values which will be your roadmap through life. It should make you spiritually rich, a person who loves whatever you are doing, wherever you are, whomever you are with. It should teach you what is important, how to live, and how to die." So that quote, I just think, really exemplifies the difference between what we are going for as far as an education or an education place, I don't know, program, versus what the average school education is, what most people are focused on. And this kind of goes into the philosophy behind the scenes of Acorn School, but what most people are focused on is the minds of children. Our society is obsessed with the knowledge that you have and how much you can regurgitate information about things that we can find on the internet. It's not really special anymore that what date the Civil War had the battle at Gettysburg or whatever. That's great, but we can find that online, and our public school system has just not evolved. And not that technology is the only reason to evolve, but there's so many reasons why the public school system is what it is. We're not here to talk about that. What we're here to talk about is the difference with what we do. And Acorn School's holistic philosophy is really based on a whole child. So Waldorf, we use Waldorf inspired philosophy and Charlotte Mason inspired philosophy. And both of those, what's interesting about both of those concepts, they're very different, but they both focus so much emphasis on nature. And then they also have a ton of emphasis on children being a whole person. So that in Waldorf, they say whole child. And in Charlotte Mason, they say it's born persons. So people are born whole people, who they are. An education that truly prepares somebody for life should involve not just the mind and the knowledge that somebody has and the STEM and the science that they understand, but it should be their mind, their body, their spirit, their soul, their heart.
Yeah.
Like the whole person should be accounted for when, educating and learning. The environment should not just be a place where you're trying to only affect the cognitive.
Well, and it's not even just like in public school where they're focusing on just the cognitive, but they're also telling children how to do it. It's not letting them self-discover in a way that fits them as a whole person.
Which is what you saw a lot when you were working, right?
I mean, it has to be that way though. And that's what's so frustrating, because you have this is with any career or job. You have great, wonderful, phenomenal teachers. And then, there's the ones that are just not so great, but that's with anything. But even the great and wonderful teachers are stamped and shoved into a box on how to teach children a specific way. And then the teachers are then having to do that to all of their children that are in their class. Because
are all completely different people.
They're all completely different whole people,
backgrounds,
but they're all being taught basically the exact same way. And education has tried to fix that with new curriculums that are being put out every year that's like, you're teaching a whole child. But how can one teacher teach a whole child when there's
30 of them?
There's 30 whole child. Yeah, with only 6 hours in a day.
Well, they say that, right? But that's actually one of the things that John Taylor Gatto talks about in his book a lot is there's the realm of the world and the people that think that there is one way to do things.
Yeah.
There's a right way and there's a wrong way. And the school system keeps trying to find the right way to educate people, right? But only this one way. They're not in the place of being able to be flexible, to change, to approach an individual child.
They're too slow at it too. By the time that they're like, oh, that way was bad. You've already taught
traumatized
thousands of children that way to the point to where it's like, oh, well, at least we know better now, to then shift and move all the way over to this new and better way, to then have the same process go over and over again where it's like, oh, that way was actually terrible also. So it's just
the whole system.
The
whole system is broken, which leads us into, so we are doing, it's a holistic program, holistic modalities, holistic education, which leads us into the homeschooling factor of Acorn School. So Acorn School is for homeschoolers. It is not a school. It's not a place where you're coming to learn to read, to write, to do arithmetic. That's not our focus. Our focus is homeschoolers are actually doing those things at home with their children. They are somebody who has chosen to homeschool their children already intends to be the person that teaches them math, that teaches them how to read, how to write, how to draw, all these things. And so what we are is an enrichment solution for homeschoolers. So for people that already intend to homeschool their children, we provide a lot of things, which is what we're going to get into, that Acorn School provides for homeschoolers. But my point in saying all that is we are not a school. We are not a place where you drop your kid off to learn the things that they're supposed to know.
Yeah.
We are a place that is enriching a child that is already homeschooled at home with their family.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, going to get into a lot of our philosophy of
Yep.
where we're going. So Acorn School is an enrichment program, but it is a little bit different than your typical enrichment program. There
Yep.
are plenty of homeschool enrichment programs out there that are wonderful, and they are more of a drop-off school style of a program. So, like here in Arizona, we have a couple that I come to mind where you take your kid there, they go maybe once a week or twice a week, and they have different classes that they go to. And they're really cool classes. They'll be
Yeah.
like enrichment classes, something like a drama class.
Mhm.
And then
there's a lot of nature ones too.
there's nature
Yeah.
ones. There's things like they go and do a math class or, more school type programs
Mhm.
that you drop your child off 1 or 2 days a week, and it's just enrichment to your homeschooling. Acorn School is that, but we are not a drop-off program. So I've found that there's this niche of homeschoolers like myself that want to be with their children even while they attend their enrichment program. So I was actually, this kind of goes back a little bit, but I was looking for that.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that when I was coming up to places that, like, I would have loved to go to the local Waldorf early childhood program with my kid, like a couple
just
days a
sit
week,
and
like
enjoy.
just sit and
Yeah.
be there with him, enjoying it. And there's what I found. I kind of thought I was alone. I kind of thought I was like the crazy one that was like, I don't want to drop my kid off anywhere. I want to stay with my kid. I want to be there while I watch them discover these things.
Yes.
And what I found out creating Acorn School, one of our requirements as an enrichment program is we are not a drop-off program. We are a family-centered program. So our approach brings the family with them. Bring your toddler, bring your baby, bring your mom, bring your grandma.
Yeah.
Bring the family. And while the kids are engaging in our curriculum and the content that Emilirose is creating, they have their family support there. And then the mothers also are observing their child and how they learn. And that enriches their homeschool back at home because it's like,
Totally.
wow, my kid really liked A, B, or C at Acorn
Yeah.
School.
And then also at the same time, it allows the parents to be able to witness their child through exploration and struggle and accomplishment all in one. Like, during our like craft times, like kids will just obviously, go at it. And then if they pull back and they need a little assistance, the parents can swoop in and provide that loving support to help them through what they were struggling with and feel accomplished in their own gentle way that they would do at home. So
yeah. So the parents being there have so many
powerful. Yeah.
amazing things that happen out of it because, for example, craft time, they can help with that. There's social things that come up within our classes. So our class is designed each week. It's a 3-hour class. And we'll talk more about the structure later, but there's a lot of time that we intentionally allow for social.
Yes.
So for
and free play.
Free play.
Yeah. And that really leads us to one of our major things that we're trying to cultivate is a community. Not only a community with parents, which we can talk about, but with the children. I mean, to grow up and be an adult in society, you have to have community skills. You have to be able to hang out with multiple personalities. You have to be able to create connections. You have to be able to take turns. You have to be able to, not all the time, but sometimes you do have to sit and just listen and absorb. And so
agree, disagree,
agree,
play
disagree.
differently.
Yeah, like so our classes.
There's a lot of situations that come up socially that a homeschooler traditionally, like if you were just at home, now homeschoolers do not just hang out at home.
Yeah.
Number one, they're off in the world doing all kinds of stuff. Oops. But what Acorn School provides is a place where you come together with the same group of people at least once time a week.
And sometimes there's new people that are thrown in because we have people that come join and we get open spots. And so then that kind of creates
Shuffles
a new
things up a little
dynamic.
bit.
Yeah. So it gets a little.
But the kids learn how
Yeah.
to work within each other, maybe the way that
adapt.
they might learn at school, but the kicker is they have their parents there to emotionally support them and guide them with their own family values.
Yep.
Not just what a teacher values. So like say in a regular school, a child gets in an argument with another child. There's only one adult there So if the adult even can get there to help them resolve it,
Yes.
the resolution is coming from that adult's worldview.
Mhm.
And you don't necessarily agree with that teacher's worldview. You might.
But it's now being imprinted on your child.
It is being imprinted on your child that this is how you should handle a disagreement. This is how you should handle an argument. This is how you should handle taking turns. This is how you should handle social life in the world. This teacher, who you don't know, you're not sitting there watching how they're approaching these situations, is handling, really parenting your child in society.
Well, and you also have to like think about too, not only are they taking what they have in their worldview, but this is also a person who is tired and exhausted and dealing with 30 problems,
of
okay?
these people.
So, and I have been, I definitely have done this because, you know, I'm a human. I can only do so much. But when you have 5 kids arguing and having an issue, it usually ends up just being like, well, you guys just need to say sorry to each other. Like,
That's
you just
it.
need to say sorry and we need to move on. Like, just apologize. We're just going to be done with this. Like, we need to move on because I have the forces of public school administration plowing down on me that I have to get. We don't have time to have long conversations about feelings.
Social skills. And
no, we have to move on.
Yeah,
That's
to validate your
was.
emotions, to understand boundaries,
Yeah.
to understand right from wrong.
Now, if you catch me at a time where I'm only having to deal with one problem, maybe we'll get a little into like feelings and stuff. But no, it's just
And so what's amazing about Acorn School is that these conflicts happen in our classes just the same way that they happen in school or anywhere else. Conflicts happen. Conflicts happen as an adult. And what's so cool is that the mothers are there, or fathers or grandmothers. They are there and present to go to their child that is struggling and help them resolve whatever conflict is going on with their own personal values and worldview. And the other parent is able to do the same thing. And they don't always align.
No.
I don't agree with the way every single other parent does things at Acorn School, and they probably don't agree with the way I do everything. But the beauty of it is that's not life. You don't have to agree with everybody. You don't have to be on the same page with every single facet of life in order to have a deep, meaningful relationship.
Because that's just not realistic.
It's not real.
No.
But I also get to counsel my children in those situations and help them with, you know, Charlie's like, well, why did that kid push me? Like, I don't know. Let's talk about why that kid might have pushed you. How did that make you feel when he pushed you? And, you know, what do you want to say to him? What do you want to do next time?
Yeah.
If that happens, how do you want to approach that? Or maybe you don't want to hang out with that kid anymore. And that's okay too. You know, there's things that I get to like help my child with that I'm so glad I'm the one doing it. I'm the one. And I'm watching him develop not only in a cognitive sense, but as a human being. I'm watching his character develop right in front of my eyes, along with other people and other children. And I'm even getting other mothers will come to me and be like, oh, did you see like what happened with Charlie and so? And we get to talk about it, and we get to talk about our children and even hear validation like, wow, your child really handled that really well. Like, and, you know, see the progress that's being made with your child. And there's just so many things that having the mothers there do for the children. And then here's the kicker. The teachers do not have to be the ones running around telling your children how to act the whole time. The teachers get to present the beautiful curriculum that we're creating. And then if the kid is going crazy, the mother comes and helps the child. And the teacher doesn't have to distract away from all the other children. The teacher can focus on the children that want to be presented with whatever knowledge is being offered. And the teacher doesn't have to get distracted with the other children that don't want to participate maybe in that moment or having feelings or having a bad day.
Our teachers, our teachers have expressed too how freeing it is to not have to parent other people's children.
Yeah.
That was always like such a hard thing for me because I mean, I would look out at my class and there's 30, you know, kids of like these are people's entire world, their children.
Yeah.
And I of course naturally want to give them everything that they need, but it's hard to do that. So at Acorn School, our teachers are just there to provide opportunities and structure and flow to the kids, but then the parents can be there to parent. And the teacher just gets the teacher. Yeah. It's great.
It's so
beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's one of those things that We planned to not be drop off, but
Mhm.
then watching the magic of the situation unfold was
Yeah.
more than we were expecting, I
Totally.
think. It was one of those things that's like, wow, this should exist more than it does.
Yeah.
And that's how we realized that this truly is a family-centered approach. And the other thing that's very family-centered is the mothers are getting their needs met too. So that's part of why people love Acorn School so much is the moms come to see their friends.
Mhm.
They're here going,
They get
I
mom
can't
time.
wait to see my friend. And
Because
while
even
the
though they're
kids are,
there to parent, the kids are, in fact, immersed.
oh my God,
They're immersed.
and what's
So while the
going
kids are
on?
being immersed, the parents get to be
We
immersed
get to
in each
chat,
other.
hang out,
Yeah.
connect, ask questions, ask homeschool questions,
Yeah.
get book recommendations, share that we had a bad
Validate.
day,
Yeah.
get validated. Like,
Mhm.
"Oh, my kid won't eat anything. My kid's not eating anything either. We get our needs met in those 3 hours.
Yep.
The same way the children are getting their needs met. And that's also such a unique facet to the family-centered approach is what family-centered means is it's not just a child-centered approach. So an example of this might be like jumpy palace houses, places you can go to that are very child-centered. Like the parents just go there and they stand
They
on the
sit.
corner and they feel overstimulated while the kids are like going crazy in these places. These are not engaging for a parent. These aren't places where the parent feels like
More
relaxed.
like disassociation.
Yeah.
Just out of your body.
Whereas a family-centered activity, so that would be a child-centered activity, going to a bouncy house. A family-centered activity might be going to the Museum of Natural History, where there's epic dinosaur bones and there's places to play and there's activities for the children.
Yeah.
But there's also, it's a peaceful environment. There's things that the parents can observe and look at and learn. It's
And
a
impart
place,
on children, like, oh, like this is a,
like help their
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
child
Yeah.
engage in it, whereas it's more of a family-centered, everybody's going, everybody enjoys it, everybody's interested in what's happening, versus this is just for my child. I'm going this place just for my kid. And when I first became a mom, I didn't completely understand those concepts, and I went places just for my kid, like, oh, let's go to Giggles because my kid will have fun there. And I still do that stuff sometimes. It's not that there's not a time and a place to go to a child-centered place. But what I realized is it is so much better when I go somewhere that is family-oriented, that I enjoy, my children enjoy. I'm a better mother in those situations when I'm somewhere that I'm happy.
Mhm.
And Acorn School is not a place where you come to just for your child. Families are getting so much more than just a beautiful class for their child. The parents are developing relationships, connections, we've had many families that have come to us. Either they moved here from out of state or they were moving away from relationships that they were in.
Yeah.
And they have built really beautiful
And
relationships.
this is probably one of my favorite transitions to watch is new parents coming in and you can just see it on their face like, this is for my child. Like, you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
come in here like, this is for my child. And then they're
The whole
looking
time, like,
around.
what are you doing?
They're looking around and they see our other moms who are talking and laughing. And they're like, oh, okay, wait, okay, my child is here enjoying themselves. Maybe I'll go over here and talk. And then they come in the next class and you can just tell a different expression on there. They're more relaxed.
Excited.
They're more excited.
We're
like they're
nursing
even
our
happy to be
babies.
there.
Yeah, we have our
it's-
babies with us. That's the other
Yeah.
part of family-centered is a lot of classes I would go to for Charlie. They're not set up for my toddler,
Yeah,
and
younger
they're not set up for my
siblings,
baby.
not allowed.
I went to this one class at like a local rec center. It was like a fun class for Charlie. And Scarlett she was little at the time, maybe 2. And she kept running in there and trying to do what they were doing, which
Naturally.
was like very simple stuff.
Yeah.
It was stuff like running around the gym in a circle.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept escorting Scarlett out to
so
me because
sad.
she had not paid for the class, which had I known, like have a child fee, have a sibling fee, let the
Yeah.
sibling participate. I'll pay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had to like wrangle her to the side. Like
Mhm.
it was heartbreaking to me because I was like, what is the point of taking my children here when only one of them can experience something while the other one I'm trying to distract, I'm trying to keep busy. Like I want to give them my phone just to like
Yeah.
keep them over here quiet. I was like, when we started Acorn School, I was like, it won't be that.
Yeah,
The
because
toddlers and the babies will
our
be
crafts
coming.
are definitely centered towards what our age group is.
Yes.
But with that said, our classes are very forgiving and flexible with younger siblings because we understand the
They wanna
need that
do
they
it
wanna do
too.
it too. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, you know what I mean? And,
So if
like,
we have extra supplies, we always let them do
yeah.
it. We always let them paint
Especially
with
if the
us.
yeah, the parents think that, that's in their wheelhouse, and then even if they're not able or interested in doing what we're doing, like, there's so many other
The
things.
environment's set
Yeah,
up
they
for them
can
to
do
play
yeah, they can
and
entertain
participate.
themselves
So
and
the
also
mom
be getting those type of skills.
so the mom's not just like, "Oh, I'm here. This place sucks for my toddler, but it's good for my older kid."
Yeah.
And same with the baby. Like, I bring my babies here and we can nurse. We're comfortable. Our babies can walk around. We baby proof the place. Like, I don't make it,
Yeah.
dangerous
Yeah.
for a little baby to walk around. Goldie jumps up on these tables all the time. It's
Yeah.
kind of annoying. But my point is, it's a family-centered environment. Our whole goal is to make it comfortable for everyone in the family to come. The mothers can enjoy, the babies can enjoy, the toddlers enjoy, and of course, the children that are taking the class are getting an enriching, beautiful experience.
Yeah.
So that's very, very important to Acorn School. Emily Rose, do you want to start going into what our actual class flow looks like and
Yeah,
what
I would love
our
to.
curriculums are and how we approach the actual classes?
Yeah. So, when we were figuring out how we wanted to design and have the class flow, we want structure because in moderation, structure is important. And so we have our set things that we do pretty much every
Our
class,
rhythm.
our rhythm. But then, there's a lot of like flexibility in there. I feel like it's almost like a river where you're just kind of going with the flow of the kids. But so when kids come in, we always start with a morning circle, which is like a community circle, and the kids come and gather together, and we do songs and stories and little games and rhythm, clapping. Like, we do a lot of fun things together, and we also have discussions
Mhm.
because kids, just like adults, want to talk about what they're interested in. And so our teachers usually provide opportunities for the kids to be able to talk about, like, what do you want to talk about? And those conversations are so fun.
So
They're
fun.
so fun for kids just to riff off each other and like get excited about things that they're doing in their life or what they did over the weekend. And so that's the first thing that we do. And then the kids break off and they get to have some free time and play and get into their little worlds while our teachers are prepping for our craft. And the crafts are typically centered around handwork, which is great. So that it helps work on like dexterity and focus and just kind of exploration with their mind, body, and soul. So we do that. So we bring the kids back. Now, with that said, we do not, like when we're ready for the craft, the teachers are really good about looking out into what the kids are doing and playing. And many times, if we notice that the children are in a flow state of playing in an enriched to like they get a whole thing going, we usually give them more time. We don't want to just interrupt it just because we're ready to go. And then when we are ready to do the craft, the kids come over, the parents are around if, help is needed. And then we let them flow back out into free play. We have snack time, which is a whole fun process where we come and gather together to eat.
We
And
light a candle and say
we light a
a
candle, say a
blessing.
verse and a blessing. Very beautiful and calm and peaceful, and the kids can hang out. And then we do watercolor and freeform drawing. It usually fluctuates depending on the teacher or the class. And that's also a beautiful time for kids to just sit and create with their hands and with beautiful art supplies. We try to get really high quality, like we use great watercolor paper. We have beautiful watercolor palettes and paintbrushes, and so the kids can be
Beeswax
immersed. Yeah,
crayons and
beeswax
nice
crayons.
pencils
Yeah.
and things like that. Yeah. And I think that part of the class is really nice because it's usually almost like a reflection of what happened that day. So if the lesson was on whales that day, they might try to paint a whale with watercolors
Yeah.
or, they can do whatever they want, essentially.
Mhm.
It's not, you have to do it this way or that way. It's a
Yes.
free time, but it's also
Yeah, it's providing, like, an idea to the children, but then they can then take it and run with it what they want. I mean, when we did whale watercolors, we had whales that were in a field of flowers, and it was great. So
That was
it's
fun.
always fun to see what they end up doing with what we give them.
Another facet of our classes is probably one of our biggest goals is that the children are able to enter a flow state. If you're not familiar with what a flow state is, by definition, if you just Google it, it says that psychologists called the state of being so absorbed in an activity that you lose track of time and lose yourself in a flow. It's a state where people feel alive, authentically and deeply absorbed, and how people learn best. This flow can occur naturally in children during movement and hands-on activities that they love. And we've noticed that the flow state also with children especially happens so easily and quickly within nature. And it's like we mentioned, not one of those things we try to interrupt once a children gets into those states. But our goal, because within a flow state, you learn so much better. And within play, you learn so much better. Studies show that as well. Obviously, within play, you get immersed in whatever it is that you are learning and engaging in. So that is such a big goal for us at Acorn
Each
School.
class we want to present children with multiple opportunities to enter into a flow state. Like we want to provide them those doors that they can walk through and enter into their flow state and be there as long as they need to.
Yeah.
Or want to without any interruptions.
And when we were outdoors, for example, my kids would get into such a flow state that we would play there till 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like we'd get to class at 9:30.
Which
we would be
for
there
our listeners is like hours after class.
hours after class. Class
Yeah.
ends at 12:30. We'd just be playing because my kids would be so engaged and immersed by the end of class in what they were
Yeah.
doing that I could just sit with my friends and talk for hours and they would just play. It was so fun. So we will actually probably do a whole podcast on that later on, just on flow states and how to help facilitate that and how we see that and why that is such an authentic way to learn. But
we just have to mention where we wanted to mention it to listeners and to members that at Acorn School, flow state is something that we want the children to enter into as much as possible because then it becomes easier for them to enter into it on their own or recognize it so that later in adulthood they can do that because that is not what happens elsewhere.
There's a method behind the madness. So if you're not aware of all these things, you might come to Acorn School and go, what are they doing? What's going on? And these are some of the
is intentional
philosophy behind what we're doing is it's very intentional, the choices that we're making in our classes. Although to the naked eye, they might seem
like, oh, they're just playing a lot.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on
There's a
within
lot
that
going
play.
on.
Yeah.
And our classes, we have currently 5 different classes. Yes, we have 5 classes currently. We have 2 English only classes. What I mean by English only is because we have a Spanish and English dual language class. So we have 2 classes and those kind of go on a more of a unit study curriculum.
Yes,
each
we
week.
have a different theme every week.
There's a different theme, but they kind of go along with the season that we're in. So summer, winter, fall, spring, and any holidays that are immersed in there. So our curriculum is very seasonal, but also in a unit study form. And then we have 2 Spanish English classes. So those also usually have some form of unit, but that usually branches throughout the whole month.
Yeah.
Because they're learning new things. Like last month, they were learning the planets in Spanish.
Yeah.
And so that went over the whole month.
Yeah. And they had specific vocabulary words that they were focusing on that were our Miss Patty was teaching in Spanish and English.
And then Miss Patty, when in her classes, the Spanish ones, all the songs and the games and things like that are done in Spanish. Her stories usually include Spanish and English so that sitting there engaging children in a language that they completely don't understand for 20 minutes would be difficult. So they have English with Spanish incorporated into the stories. She's wonderful. We love Miss Patty. And then we are starting next month. In August, our very first Charlotte Mason inspired class. So that class is going to be focused on literature, poetry, composer, music, artwork of the greats. So for example, the first month will be going through the novel The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe
Mhm.
together, and they'll be studying Bach and Van Gogh
Yes, throughout the whole month,
throughout
yeah.
the whole month. So that's our owls class. And then we have one more class, which is our starlings class, which is actually our little Waldorf inspired dance class. And it is adorable. It's for toddlers. It's 2 to 4-year-olds. And it's just a very gentle dance class. It's not focused on how you look and your appearance and
Mhm.
kind of all the things that can make dance yucky later on in,
Yeah.
in children's lives. It's just a very innocent, very beautiful, very sweet dance class taught by a phenomenal dancer. And so it has a very real element of learning ballet and things like that from a very gentle
Yes.
perspective.
And just to mention this as well for our English only classes. So our Spanish classes are special because Miss Patty weaves in English and Spanish all up into her curriculum. And then I feel like for our English classes, they have their own special little thing, and that is our teacher, Miss Olivia. She is a
That's amazing.
writer. Not only is she a writer, but she is a great musician as well. And Miss Olivia is such a gem in the way that her stories are just
They're so engaging.
so engaging and beautiful, and she writes them all herself.
Yes, she writes her own
And
stories. So they're not reading from a book. It's not
no,
something that anybody
they're
could do.
original
Only Miss Olivia
stories.
could do them.
Yes, exactly.
And they're getting
Yeah.
something very special. And she does write these little cute songs that go with them. She does our monthly song. Acorn
Yeah,
School
she
has a
does.
monthly song.
Yep.
She writes all of those. She writes her own music. She's phenomenal.
Yeah, we really have a beautiful collection of teachers where
Oh my gosh. We joke that Acorn School has been full of unicorns. Like, you usually only get like one unicorn, and it's like, wow, that person is really special.
we have a herd.
We have a herd of unicorns. Like, everybody that joins our team has just been over the top amazing in so
Yep.
many different ways. And we've all become friends. It's easy to work together. It's just like,
it's beautiful.
it's so crazy. Like, it's the opposite of what a toxic work environment might be.
Yes.
It's like an engaging, loving, wonderful work environment. Supportive. Everybody is amazing. So
Mhm.
we have the best teachers and classes. Our dance teacher, Miss Kaylee, is amazing. I joke she's a Disney princess. Like, when you watch her, she's just like so beautiful.
So graceful.
Everything she does
Like a
is so
swan.
lovely.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Scarlett loves her. So yeah, all of our classes are different. We plan to a couple upcoming things. In October, we will be moving back outdoors. So we currently are indoors at We Are Climax Rock Gym. Shout out, you guys are the best. This is our room was been transformed, their party room, like we mentioned in the beginning.
Yep.
This is our classroom, and they let us have access to the entire rock climbing gym during our classes. So our
the free
kids,
play is quite literally like they can run and
they
play
can
and
literally jump off the
build
walls.
forts.
It's
It's amazing.
so amazing. We love it here so much. And it is actually the best case scenario for an indoor location for Acorn School, because Acorn School initially and originally and ideally is an outdoor nature
Yeah,
program.
we would be outside all day, every day, but the weather does not permit.
We live in
here
Arizona once again. So
we would
about
cook.
May through September
Yeah,
is
it's
way too hot
toasty.
to do our long scale classes, especially with babies in tow and toddlers and grandmas, and everybody's here and everybody's hot. So we have found this indoor location. What we haven't mentioned thus far is that Acorn School really is nature based. So come October, we will be moving back outdoors. We will miss our classroom. We will miss Climax, but we have it set up so we will be back next summer. We will come back here.
And our dance class will
And
stay
our dance
here
class
as
will
well.
stay
Yeah.
in this classroom.
And our podcast.
But we will be moving back outdoors in October, and we'll be outdoors October through all the way through April into May, maybe if weather permits. And then also starting in October, we hope to have our Cactus Wren
Yes,
class,
Cactus Wren.
which will be our Scottsdale location.
They'll be like birds.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of our classes are
All of our classes are
bird-themed.
birds names. Yeah.
And it's amazing because there's so many different birds. We're able to keep
Yes,
adding
thank
new
goodness.
classes. Glad we didn't pick like squirrel types
Oh
or
my
something.
God. Yeah. Birds are very diverse. Thank goodness.
But yeah, so we like I said, we didn't expect
Yeah.
when we had the hummingbirds and the blue jays for our first classes, we had no expectation we would have like 8 different birds, but we do
Yes.
now.
We are branching out. Our Charlotte Mason classes are birds of prey. So
Oh, yes, we have an
we're
owl.
branching out into
Mhm.
the other types of birds.
Yeah, so
But yeah.
I think that's our big announcements that in October we go back outside. We have the cactus wren starting in Scottsdale coming in October. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. Also in October, we will, for our English classes, our unit studies, have a take-home curriculum that will be adding on to whatever the unit was that week. So if we
comes with your
studied
membership.
whales, coming with your membership, you will also get something to take home to just kind of continue whatever you were learning
Yeah,
at
because
class.
a lot of families only come, once a week and for 3 hours. So then the curriculum will provide an extension
Mhm.
of what they experienced in class at home.
And
which
it'll
is
have
really
Olivia's stories
Yes,
and
Olivia's
songs
stories
in
and
it,
songs will
so
be
you
in
can
it,
read them
so
at
you can read them
home.
again. So
Mhm.
any of our Acorn School families where the kids heard the story, they got home and they're like, "Oh, I wanna hear it again," and the parents had to try
Mhm.
to remember it. No longer. You can
Yeah.
just read it from the curriculum.
So that is also coming in October. So we have a lot of cool things coming up.
Yeah, we're excited, and then we're excited to interview all of our teachers so that you can
Yes.
get to know them along with us, and we're also gonna be talking about some really cool topics too.
And we're going to interview some parents. We've got a lot of good
A lot of good
things coming
things.
up for the
Yeah.
podcast. So we are very excited about that. Um, yeah, so I think that's it. Is there anything else about our classes that we want to talk about?
I think that was a great overview, and
For
I'm
now,
sure
yeah.
listeners will get more nitty-gritty information as we continue on.
Definitely. This is the first of many podcasts. We hope to be releasing them twice a month.
Mhm.
That's our goal. We'll see if we can make
Yes.
it. But hopefully every other week you will get a new Acorn School podcast.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Thank you so much for tuning in.